The three greatest threats to the world are in this order: psychiatry, Islam, and communism. All three are orchestrated by an international Jewish enclave, better known as an ancient guild of thieves. They claim to be the chosen people of the Bible. They are not. The chosen people have red hair and white skin, an ancestry belonging to Scotland and Ireland, and once colonized civilizations throughout most of the world before anyone else. Psychiatry is the greatest threat because it goes against and above the law to kidnap, torture, and murder whistleblowers and witnesses to their crimes. The moment any threat speaks up, they are taken away in a white van, stripped of all their rights in the name of imaginary mental illnesses, transforming the world into a communist, Orwellian 1984 dystopia. So long as psychiatry exists, human rights don't exist. They can override all your rights and torture you to death with the magic words, mental illness. Normally, they need a warrant to raid your home, but with psychiatry all they need to do is say the magic words, mental illness, and they can do absolutely anything to you. It isn't an accident. It's like this on purpose, and psychiatry is the safety net to guarantee corruption. If whistleblowers weren't railroaded and made to disappear through the so-called mental health system, corruption would be stopped. Psychiatry enables and maintains corruption. In the past, before it was named psychiatry, they ran madhouses, where people who were disliked but didn't commit a crime were locked up in a prison at your convenience. They were experimented on, tortured and mutilated and killed by psychopaths who ran the madhouses. Madhouses became endorsed by the government as a means to hold on to power and maintain corruption, by making all witnesses and resistance, especially whistleblowers, disappear. And you all tolerated it because you had the convenience of making people you don't like disappear. Before madhouses in the Dark Ages, these filthy creatures went by the label of professional torturers and executioners. They now call themselves psychiatrists and pretend to be a legitimate medical profession. But there is nothing medical about it. They have a Bible called the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual, but there isn't a single statistic in it. It's just a name to pretend. There is no such thing as a mental illness. It's a metaphor, not an actual thing. Contrary to popular belief, there has never been a single scientific method to determine a mental illness. It is entirely ideological. I will give you an example of the true colours of psychiatry. Understand that this example is not an exception but the standard everywhere. Harry Bailey was the psychiatrist in charge of Chelmsford Private Hospital not far from where my home is, in Sydney. He kidnapped more than 1,000 people, some off the street, including children, for excuses like being slightly overweight or PMS, in the name of bizarre mental illnesses. The way the so-called mental health system works is that they have the power to override every single law and kidnap anyone at their pleasure, and do absolutely anything to them behind closed doors. These people were strapped to hospital stretchers for up to 3 months at a time, and given lethal doses of sedatives to keep them unconscious because they kept waking up screaming in terror. Why would they do that, might you ask? Because he hooked up wires to their brain and electrocuted them in the head with a wall socket every day while strapped down. Many of them died unconscious. Many survivors quickly suicided after waking up. Those who survived had severe brain damage. It took 10 years and an international force to get the government to do anything about it, and all they did was an investigation, a royal commission. As the royal commission closed in on Harry Bailey, he suicided. And that was the end of it. The disgusting things that went on in Chelmsford continued. All of the psychiatrists who worked there continued as usual. 2 of these psychiatrists are James Wilcock and George Slowinski. Both of them later killed their own wives in cold blood and went to prison for it. They didn't just kill their own wives, they killed many more, especially George Slowinski. But after they went to prison, the cases against them were abandoned. After only 4 years in prison, George Slowinski was let out and put in charge of Wyong Hospital Psychiatric Facility, the place and man responsible for my kidnapping, imprisonment without charge or trial, and extensive torture. And he isn't alone. There aren't words to describe what this vile filth has done to me. There is double the documented cases of rape by psychiatrists than there is across the entire medical industry. But understand, the vast majority of cases are never documented, and anyone who talks disappears. And the same thing happens to them. And there are far worse things they do than rape. And I've been sexually molested by them while paralysed as well. Drugged and paralysed and sexually molested. And you're all to blame. Because of the convenience of making those you don't like to disappear while ignoring the cost. And it is irreversibly costing you absolutely everything. What point is there in the rule of law when they can override any and all laws and do absolutely anything to anyone at all, anytime? First they come for the undesirables. Then they come for the whistleblowers and witnesses. Then they come for you.